Every season, the goal of every team is to hoist the Lombardi Trophy at the beginning of February. A key to this goal is to be the number one seed in the conference, and the reward for this achievement, a bye week in the playoffs as well as home field advantage up until the Super Bowl. But is all this effort really worth it, and more importantly, is home field advantage really that important when it comes to making deep playoff runs? To start off, we need to define what home field advantage is. In every NFL game, there are two sides, the home side and the away side. At the core of it, the home team is supposed to have a little bit of an advantage, whether it be through crowd attendance or even the travel that the opposing team faces. Even things like outdoor versus indoor stadiums or turf versus grass fields can affect the outcome of the game. It is easy to see that it would be a lot harder to play against the Super Bowl winning Seahawks at home in 2014 than the 2008 Lions who finished 0-16. But just how much does, say, a roaring crowd have on the outcome of a game? One of the simplest ways we can track this is through wins and losses. So how much does the home team actually win at home? In this graph dating back to 1970, we can see that generally, the home team wins about 60% of the matchup. And when accounting for such a large database, it is clear to see that there is a significant boost that teams get when playing at home. Another way we can track this is through the home team's average margin of victory. This is a graph depicting a team's average margin of victory for the 2023 NFL season. As you can see, a majority of the teams fall along this trend line. However, there are a few outliers: Miami, Dallas, and Washington. To see why this margin-based method can be easily skewed, let's take a deeper dive into the 2023 Dolphins. This team had the second highest average scoring margin at home and ranked in the bottom half of the league away from home. So does this mean that the Dolphins magically turned into this offensive juggernaut at home? To put it simply, no. In this overview of the Dolphins' schedule, we can see a wide variety of scores, but there are a few games that vastly skew the margins for Miami. For example, let's take a look at their Week 3 bout with the Denver Broncos. The Dolphins put up a whopping 70 points at home, and in a dataset of only 9 games, this result skews those margins vastly, and if we take that result out of the dataset, their home margin drops to 10.1. In tandem, let's also look at the average win percentage of the teams they're facing at home versus away from home. At home, the teams have a winning percentage of 41.8%, while away, it jumps to 48.5%. That difference is like the equivalent of playing the Bears or Falcons rather than playing a team like the Packers. This also helps account for why the Dolphins feel so much more comfortable at home, but there's also one large factor for a team's success. The roar of an energized crowd often acts as both an intimidator for the away side as well as a motivator for the home team. A force that when harnessed can allow the team to possess a seemingly unstoppable force behind them, like with the 12th man in Seattle. And when there is the support of the fan base at every game, it turns home from just a stadium into an impenetrable fortress, just like with the New England Patriots. From 2009 to 2018, the Patriots made the playoffs every single year and made the Super Bowl in 2011, 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2018, while winning the Lombardi 3 separate times. In that span, the Patriots won the Super Bowl more times than any other team had even been to it. This was a large reason as to why a lot of America saw Brady and Belichick as villains, as did people with the Warriors in the mid-2010s. However, a large part of the Patriots' dominance during that time was due to the impenetrable Gillette Stadium. If you look at the charts about the average attendance at each home game, the Patriots usually rank somewhere around the middle of the pack. However, this is due to Gillette Stadium only being able to hold about 66,000 people. And while that does seem like a lot, it doesn't even match up to the 80,000 capacity stadium that the Cowboys have in Arlington or the 83,000 capacity stadium that the Giants and Jets use. Over the course of the season, this means that with full capacity, the Cowboys will get about 112,000 more people per season, and even more in the case of the Giants and the Jets. But the Patriots fan base has some of the loudest fans. Home games in Foxborough can get up to about 106.4 decibels. This level of noise is a large contributor to how the Patriots became unbeatable in Gillette from 2009 to 2018, winning a whopping 86% of home games during that time when the league average was only 57%. But what happens when there is no crowd?
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know.
In 2020, with the COVID-19 pandemic sweeping through the US, many cities had strict policies on large gatherings. Thus, we have one of the weirdest eras in sports, that of the empty stadium. Oddly enough, without these swarms of fans that flock into the stadium every Sunday, the home field advantage seemingly diminished, with the home team only winning about 50% of the time. A study conducted in 2021 looked deeper into this topic in order to find if it was just a coincidence or if these psychotic superfans actually had an effect on the game. The answer, obviously, was yes. Across 50 NFL seasons, they had found that during the COVID season, the home team won the least out of any of those seasons. Additionally, they found that even the limited capacity of fans increased the winning percentage by 8%. But if this is the case, why aren't teams like the Cowboys always boosting high home field win rates despite being able to hold more people? Well, the answer to that is weather. In general, there are two main types of stadiums, indoor and outdoor. With an indoor stadium, the environment is nice and controlled and there is no worry about the wind whipping your kicks 20 yards right. But that takes away all the fun from outdoor football. Why play in a nice indoor stadium when you can play in below freezing temperatures for half the season? This randomness is the last thing that turns Gillette Stadium into a nightmare for opponents. With no way of controlling the weather, both the home team and the away team are at the mercy of whatever the clouds decide to bring for that day. But then, how does this lead to home field advantage? Picture this. Your entire year, you've lived in Miami, Florida, with perfect beaches and warm air year-round. And then you get the gift of getting to head up to Foxborough, where the winters are all below freezing. Odds are, you are going to be uncomfortable all game compared to the teams that are used to that weather. This is where winter comes in handy for teams based up north versus the teams down south. When a warm weather team travels up north when it's below 40 degrees, their winning percentage is a measly 38.8%. However, it only gets worse from there, as when it's below 32, it drops to 36.6%, and when you get below 20, even lower to 33%. Now, can you guess what the average temperature in Foxborough is during the NFL playoffs? Well, if you guessed below 40 degrees, then you'd be right. As if the warm teams already had it bad enough traveling up north, as well as battling with rowdy crowds, this just adds to the struggle of traveling up north in the winter. So, how do teams with home field advantage usually fare when it comes time for the playoffs? And how far does the 1 seed usually go? Here's a graph that shows the win percentage of the home team in each round dating back to 2003. It would seem that there is a massive discrepancy in win percentage between the wild card and the divisional game. However, this is an example of something called survivorship bias. This is when there is a logical error of concentrating on entities while ignoring those that did not pass the selection process. This leads to an incorrect conclusion due to incomplete data. For example, here is a diagram of where returning World War II planes got hit. One might see this diagram and just try to reinforce the commonly hit spots, but by doing this, they neglect one big group of data points: the planes that got shot down and didn't make it back. In the NFL playoffs, the wildcard data neglects a very important group of teams. The home team in the divisional round before 2019 were the top 2 seeds in each conference. These teams both had a bye week, and after 2019, only one team from each conference has a bye week. In tandem, due to the wildcard game being a bit of a toss-up, this means that the top seeds in the conference have a chance of playing a team that is going to be playing back-to-back road games, and thus the home field advantage for the home team in the divisional game compounds. With all this data supporting teams that had this bye week, how do they typically fare in the playoffs? This graph depicts the outcomes of teams with a bye week in the playoffs since 2003. Since then, the teams with a bye week advanced past the divisional with a whopping 68.5% win rate. That is about 10% higher than the home win rate of the NFL in 2023. However, the real shocker is the 40% of teams that make the Super Bowl, as well as the 18.5% who actually end up winning. With this in mind, it is clear just how valuable the home field advantage and bye week are towards a team's Super Bowl prospects. Especially in the present, where only 2 teams get the luxury of home field advantage throughout the playoffs, the first seed must be secured. And as we look towards the future, the number 1 seed will still hold great weight when teams are pushing towards the Lombardi Trophy. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe, and if you want to watch more, click in the top left corner. There will also be a Discord link in the description.